Jo stood aloof meanwhile, trying to harden her heart against them, and succeeding only in primming up her face in an expression of entire disapprobation. Laurie looked at her once or twice, but as she showed no signs of relenting, he felt injured and turned his back on her till the others were done with him, when he made her a low bow and walked off without a word. As soon as he had gone, she wished she had been more forgiving, and when Meg and her mother went upstairs, she felt lonely and longed for Teddy. After resisting for some time, she yielded to the impulse, and, armed with a book to return, went over to the big house. "Is Mr. Lawrence in?" asked Jo of a housemaid who was coming downstairs. "Yes, miss, but I don't believe he's able just yet." "Why not? Is he ill?" "La, no, miss, but he's had a scene with Mr. Lorry, who is in one of his tantrums about something which vexes the old gentleman, so I daren't go nigh him." "Where's Lorry?" "Shut up in his room, and he won't answer, though I've been a-tapping. I don't know what's to become of the dinner, for it's ready and there's no one to eat it." "I'll go see what the matter is. I'm not afraid of either of them." Up went Jo, and knocked smartly on the door of Laurie's little study. "Stop that, or I'll open the door and make you," called out the young gentleman in a threatening tone. Jo immediately knocked again. The door flew open, and in she bounced before Laurie could recover from his surprise. Seeing that he really was out of temper, Jo, who knew how to manage him, assumed a contrite expression, and going artistically down upon her knees, said meekly, "Please forgive me for being so cross. I came to make it up, and can't go away till I have." "It's all right. Get up and don't be a goose, Jo," was the cavalier reply to her petition. "Thank you. I will. Could I ask what's the matter? You don't look exactly easy in your mind." "I've been shaking, and I won't bear it," growled Laurie indignantly. "Who did it?" demanded Jo. "Grandfather. If it had been anyone else, I'd have—" And the injured youth finished his sentence by an energetic gesture of the right arm. "That's nothing. I often shake you and you don't mind," said Jo soothingly. "Pooh! You're a girl and it's fun, but allow no man to shake me." "I don't think anyone would care to try it if you looked as much like a thundercloud as you do now. Why were you treated so?" "Just because I wouldn't say what your mother wanted me for. I'd promised not to tell, and of course I wasn't going to break my word." "Couldn't you satisfy your grandpa any other way?" "No, he would have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I'd have told my part of the scrape if I could without bringing Meg in. As I couldn't, I held my tongue and bore the scolding till the old gentleman collared me. Then I got angry and bolted, for fear I should forget myself." "He wasn't very nice, but he's sorry, I know. So go down and make up. I'll help you." "Hanged if I do. I'm not going to be lectured and pummeled by everyone just for a bit of a frolic. I was sorry about Meg and begged pardon like a man, but I won't do it again when I wasn't in the wrong." "He didn't know that." "He ought to trust me, not act as if I was a baby. It's no use, Jo. He's got to learn that I am able to take care of myself and don't need anyone's apron string to hold on by." "Oh, what pepper pots you are," sighed Jo. "How do you mean to settle this affair?" "Well, he ought to beg pardon and believe me when I say I can't tell him what the fuss is about." "Bless you, he won't do that." "I won't go down till he does." "Now, Teddy, be sensible. Let it pass, and I'll explain what I can. You can't stay here, so what's the use of being melodramatic?" "I don't intend to stay here long anyway. I'll slip off and take a journey somewhere, and when Grandpa misses me, he'll come round fast enough." "I dare say, but you ought to not go and worry him." "Don't preach. I'll go to Washington and see Brooke. It's gay there, and I'll enjoy myself after the troubles." "What fun you'd have. I wish I could run off too," said Jo, forgetting her part of mentor in lively visions of martial life at the capital. "Come on, then. Why not? You go and surprise your father, and I'll stir up old Brooke. It would be a glorious joke. Let's do it, Jo. We'll leave a letter saying we're all right, and trot off at once. I've got money enough. It will do you good, and be no harm as you go to your father." For a moment, Jo looked as if she would agree, for, wild as the plan was, it just suited her. She was tired of care and confinement, longed for a change, and thoughts of her father blended temptingly with the novel charms of camps and hospitals, liberty and fun. Her eyes kindled as they turned wistfully toward the window, but they fell on the old house opposite, and she shook her head with a sorrowful decision. If I was a boy, we'd run away together and have a capital time, but as I'm a miserable girl, I must be proper and stop at home. Don't tempt me, Teddy. It's a crazy plan. That's the fun of it, began Laurie, who had got a willful fit on him and was possessed to break out of bonds in some way. Hold your tongue, cried Jo, covering her ears. Prunes and prisms are my doom, and I might as well make up my mind to it. I came here to moralize, not to hear about things that make me skip to think of. I know Meg would wet blanket such a proposal, but I thought you had more spirit, began Laurie insinuatingly. Oh, bad boy, be quiet. Sit down and think of your own sins. Don't go making me add to mine. If I get your grandpa to apologize for the shaking, will you give up running away? Asked Jo seriously. Yes, but you won't do it, answered Laurie, who wished to make up, but felt that his outraged dignity must be appeased first. If I can manage the young one, I can the old one, muttered Jo as she walked away, leaving Laurie bent over a railroad map with his head propped up on both hands. Come in, and Mr. Lawrence's gruff voice sounded gruffer than ever as Jo tapped at his door. It's only me, sir, come to return a book, she said blandly as she entered. Want any more? Asked the old gentleman, looking grim and vexed, but trying not to show it. Yes, please. I like old Sam so well. I think I'll try the second volume, returned Jo, hoping to propitiate him by accepting a second dose of Boswell's Johnson, as he had recommended that lively work. The shaggy eyebrows unbent a little as he rolled the steps toward the shelf where the Johnsonian literature was placed. Jo skipped up, and, sitting on the top step, affected to be searching for her book, but was really wondering how best to introduce the dangerous subject of her visit. Mr. Lawrence seemed to suspect that something was brewing in her mind, for, after taking several brisk turns about the room, he faced round on her, speaking so abruptly that Rasselas stumbled face downward on the floor. Oh, what has that boy been about? Don't try to shield him. I know he has been in mischief by the way he acted when he came home. I can't get a word from him, and when I threatened to shake the truth out of him, he bolted upstairs and locked himself into his room. He did do wrong, but we forgave him, and I'll promise not to say a word to anyone, began Jo reluctantly. That won't do. He shall not shelter himself behind a promise from you soft-hearted girls. If he's done anything amiss, he shall confess, beg pardon, and be punished. Out with it, Jo. I won't be kept in the dark. Mr. Lawrence looked so alarming and spoke so sharply that Jo would have gladly run away if she could. But she was perched aloft on the steps, and he stood at the foot, a line in the path, so she had to stay and brave it out. Indeed, sir, I cannot tell. Mother forbade it. Laurie has confessed, asked pardon, and been punished quite enough. We don't keep silence to shield him, but someone else, and it will make more trouble if you interfere. Please don't. It was partly my fault, but it's all right now, so let's forget it and talk about the Rambler or something pleasant. Oh, hang the Rambler. Come on down and give me your word that this harum-scarum boy of mine hasn't done anything ungrateful or impertinent. If he has, after all your kindness to him, I'll thrash him with my own hands. The threat sounded awful, but did not alarm Jo, for she knew that the irascible old gentleman would never lift a finger against his grandson, whatever he might say to the contrary. She obediently descended and made as light of the prank as she could, without betraying Meg or forgetting the truth. Well, if the boy held his tongue because he promised and not from obstinacy, I'll forgive him. He's a stubborn fellow and hard to manage, said Mr. Lawrence, rubbing up his hair till it looked as if he had been out in a gale, and smoothing the frown from his brow with an air of relief. So am I, but a kind word will govern me when all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't, said Jo, trying to say a kind word for her friend, who seemed to get out of one scrape only to fall into another. You think I'm not kind to him, hey? Was the sharp answer. Oh, dear, no, sir. You are rather too kind sometimes, and then just a trifle hasty when he tries your patience. Don't you think you are?